What's up guys, I'm Nathan and this is Full Throttle Cars. In today's video I am going to be going over all of the costs that I have had to put into my Honda Civic behind me here. So if you guys can remember back in an old video I told you that I bought an $800 car. This is that $800 car, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how much that $800 really was. And guys, it was a lot more. I'm going to tell you right at the beginning. A cheap car like this does not cost what you put up front. There are going to be expenses, especially in the first bit that you are driving the car for, that you're going to have to put into it. Alright guys, one more thing that I should mention before I get into the list that I'm going to be going over in this video is that I actually made a Google spreadsheet just showing the cost and the label of the parts that I am telling you guys that I put into this vehicle. So there will be all of the separate parts and all of what each of them cost, and then the total cost of the repairs below it, and then once more the $800 plus the total cost, and that's going to be the real cost of an $800 car here. But with that said, let's get straight into it. Okay guys, so the first real expense that I had to put into this vehicle and repair would have been the rear passenger side brake calipers. If you look into the previous videos, you can actually see Nick, myself, and then a friend of ours repairing this rear brake caliper. And this was a problem directly from the beginning. The instant that I hopped into this vehicle, I could hear this caliper actually grinding down on the rotary disc. So if you can look in there, those are both new parts, or all three of them are new parts actually, the pads, the rotors, and the calipers. But the calipers themselves were $92.99. Now the brakes and the rotors, those were a separate charge, but just the calipers on either side, because I did have to end up replacing the driver's side rear brake caliper later, added up to be a total of $186. And that was within the first couple months. I already was putting $186 just on the calipers in the vehicle. Like I said, along with those brake calipers, I also had to replace the brake rotors and the brake pads. Now those don't just come with the brake calipers. Each of the rotors cost me $21.49, so 2 times the $21.49, and then the whole package of 4 brake pads was $37.99. Okay guys, so just on the brakes, an update so far of the cost, it was $270. So the combined rotors, calipers, and pads added up to be $270. That is within the first 3 months of purchasing this vehicle, and we still have quite a few expenses to go for. Okay guys, if you have enjoyed this video so far and want to see more videos on the Civic itself, or really just more videos in general on cars, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and go and check out other content that we have on this channel. The next 2 things that I had to put into this vehicle are actually the cheapest of the 2 because they fall under the same category, and they are light bulbs. So I had to put in 1 headlight, and you guys can actually see a video that Nick and I did on replacing the headlight and tail light of this vehicle. So the headlight was $13.99 at Advanced Auto Parts, and I'll take you back to this tail light, and the tail light was $8.99. So you guys can add 14 plus 9 to get $24 in lights on this vehicle. Now these did burn out a little bit after I purchased the vehicle, so it's not as much something I can complain about, especially since they're cheap things that just tend to wear out. You know, every light bulb only has so much of a life, but it is nonetheless a cost that I did have to put into this vehicle. Okay guys, so the biggest expense that I have had to put into the Civic so far is, drumroll please, the tires. Okay, so I got all 4 of these tires new and did get the front tires replaced before the rear tires. Now these front tires were completely essential to get at the price that I did get them. I had to get studded tires for the front of my vehicle because of the location in which I live. With a front wheel drive vehicle like this, you need to have some way to get up and down the hills, especially on my driveway. If I did not have studded tires, many days in the winter, I simply would not be able to drive this vehicle and would just kind of be locked up in the house. Each of these front two studded tires was $95.21. And these, again, are tires that you can only use in the winter. Legally, you are not allowed to have studded tires throughout the summer. Luckily, I did not have to replace them throughout the summer because I was not able to drive for a medical issue. Coming in about a month later, after I got those new front tires, I did purchase new rear tires. Now, these tires were $55.80 a piece. So that is $110 or $111.60. So these tires were definitely the biggest expense, and I will drop down below how much all four tires combined actually cost in the long run. Alright guys, so the final repair, the final expense that I have put into this vehicle is the front passenger control arm. So right down on the wheel, you guys can actually look into previous videos on the channel, and you can see Nick and I actually diagnosing the problem that was occurring on this vehicle. So right, what you're looking at right now is actually the bushing on the control arm that was causing the issue. Every single time I would accelerate or stop, that bushing really just wasn't there to hold that nut apart from the metal itself. So it would just sound like whenever that metal was hitting that nut, it would just sound like somebody was really kicking the vehicle from the outside. It seriously was like somebody was doing that. And that was really driving me crazy whenever I was driving the car, and it was not good for the car itself. So that was a $65 part. It might have been able to be a little bit cheaper if I would have just got new ball joints and bushings for the control arm and kept the metal piece itself. But I do not have those tools, and there were a couple problems on this control arm already, so I figured might as well just replace the whole thing. Okay guys, so with all of that said, that last final mention of the control arm, that is the final repair that I have had to make. And so everything combined on this vehicle added to a total cost of $657.14 throughout the course of the past year since I bought the vehicle. So that $657 does include the front tires, the rear tires, the rear both calipers, the rear brake pads, the rear rotors, the headlight, and the tail light. Oh, and that control arm right there. So that is 8 items, adding up to a total of $660-ish. And so whenever you combine that with the cost of the vehicle initially, that's how you're going to get the true cost of an $800 car. So that is actually going to add up to be $1,457.14. So I really hope that number really does help educate you, especially if you're thinking about buying a first-time car. Obviously, if you don't have the money to buy an expensive car that isn't going to have as many issues in the future, then you will have to do what I did and buy a cheaper car. You will have to put money into it, but at least you're not putting so much into it at once. But just do not think that if you buy a cheap car, that's going to be the only thing you put into it other than gas and maybe the occasional brake pad replacement. You're going to have to replace larger parts like the tires, the brake pads, that control arm that I mentioned. Those headlights, they're destined to burn out on any car, but whenever you buy a car with so many thousand miles, there's a good chance that those things are getting ready to burn out. So this car did not luckily have any engine troubles. I would hope that that has something to do with this being a Honda, a reliable vehicle, 270,000 miles, but it's still going hard. Nothing wrong with the engine. Okay guys, so with that final price I just shared with you, with it being almost $1,500, I do hope that this video helped increase your knowledge on how much a cheap car is going to cost you in the long run. Obviously, if you don't have enough money to buy an expensive car, this still is an option for you. Just know buying a cheap car isn't really going to be all that cheap. With that said, I do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to drop a comment, like this video, and subscribe to our channel. Bye guys.